We're previewing Clare this year, brought to you by orgaretro.com. Go to the website and put in the promo code OurGame and you get 15% off jerseys like this, the Clare one, and the retro 96 Mayo one there, which is easy enough on the eyes. When you're talking about Clare, you can't help but start with all the absentees. Like, go through the players that they're going to be missing this year. Colin Galvin, he's obviously said he's off the panel for this season and hopefully he'll be able to return next year after injury. John Conlon remains to be seen if he features at all after doing a cruise ship earlier in the year. It's a quick turnaround, as we've talked about with Limerick and the likes of Richie English. Peter Duggan hasn't been part of it. Podge Collins is out. I mean, it's player after player for them, really. It's going to be really hard to see how Clare are going to mount a championship for a championship challenge for Munster, which they haven't won since 1998, I believe, which is the longest drought of any county in the province, never mind in All-Ireland.
Well, like, if you look at it, Shane, in 2018, when Clare went close to getting back to an All-Ireland final, who were their key players? Colin Galvin was brilliant in that sweeper role, both in the draw in All-Ireland semi-final and in the replay, and a brilliant distributor. John Conlon was, in Hurler of the Year form. How he didn't get nominated for Hurler of the Year that year still kind of mystifies me. Peter Duggan was an all-star forward and their free taker. And Podge Collins, I think he came on against Tipperary in the group stages and was really, really good. And I think he started every game thereafter. So you're looking at four of their most important players gone. And if you look at, compare the team now back to the 2013, All-Ireland winning team, like, who have you left, really? David McInerney, Tony Kelly, and
Patrick O'Connor,
and that's it. So you've three left of that All-Ireland winning team 7 years ago. But with the lads that they're missing, like, their team has been gutted, really.
Even Conor McGrath, going back a little bit further, a guy who's suffered a huge amount of injuries over the years. I mean, what an asset he'd be going into this championship.
Oh, he'd be massive, and just, it's very hard to get over the fact that they're missing these players. I actually said, just when it was before Podge was even announced, I said I don't think Clare can win All Ireland without Colin Galvin. I genuinely don't think they have a hope of winning All Ireland. That's been honest. Like, I cannot see them winning an All Ireland or even getting to the last four without Galvin, Conlon, Duggan and Collins. I just can't see it. You're looking at, it's four really influential players from 8 upwards too, and players that take the burden off Tony Kelly. And I just can't see it. The only thing about it is Brian Lohan was probably fairly aware that he was going to be without Galvin, and that was probably one of the reasons why David McInerney played midfield in the league and was very, very good in the league. And he could chip in with a couple of points, but I just can't see them being able to put up, the sort of scores that they're going to need to be really, really competitive in this championship. And they're going straight into the fire against Limerick in the first game as well.
Which, funnily enough, doubles up as the league final. So we're writing off Clare in terms of winning silverware, but in their very first game they could pick up a league title. Still in all, I can't imagine how they'll do it. And you know what? I think Brian Lohan has been really handed an SH1T sandwich here, because this is a team that got battered by Limerick and Tipperary, fairly short turnaround last year in the championship. He's lost the spine of the team, more or less, and he's got the hardest possible route to win the All-Ireland, because Munster is ever so slightly stronger than Leinster. I think that's fair to say. And he's been handed a route whereby you're going to have to go through Limerick, the 2018 champions, the 2019 champions Tipperary, then Cork, Waterford, and then whoever, the best of whoever on the other side if you get to an All-Ireland semi-final, or if you have to go through the back door. I mean, it couldn't have been any harder for Brian Lohan.
No, and as you said, to get to a Munster final, they're going to have to beat two teams that annihilated them last year. I was remiss in leaving out Shane O'Donnell from that 2013 team. Obviously, one of the first games he started was in the All-Ireland final that year. So I think there's four starters from the 2013 team, All-Ireland final winning team. And they're all, like, Tony Kelly is under pressure every day he goes out for Clare, because if he doesn't deliver, as we said in other shows, if he doesn't deliver, Clare invariably don't win those games. But the pressure on McInerney, O'Connor, Kelly and O'Donnell to deliver in these games is huge. And I just see actually as well, Aidan McCarthy picked up a knock a couple of days ago, and I think he's still under 20, but he's going to be missing for the Clare under 20s, as reported by the Clare champion a couple of days ago, and he's another option maybe coming off the bench, and it looks like he's going to be missing as well. So they're seriously depleted. I mentioned in another show as well, from Colin Galvin's point of view, I think it's very long-sighted, and we're usually short-sighted in the GA. It's very long-sighted that he would sit out the rest of this year with the groin injury that he has, not risk the next couple of years to try and rush to get ready for this championship. So that's probably a smart kind of thing for him to do. They obviously have David Reedy back from last year, which is a big influence, but a lot they're game winners, they're game turners. A lot of them are missing. And it's very hard to get over that quartet that they're missing. They're 12 to 1 to win Munster. I couldn't go near that, to be honest with you. And they're 22 to 1 to win All Ireland. And I just can't see. I just can't see either of them happening, being honest with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't put your money on it, being honest. But like in the flip side is that Brian Lohan got some good performances in the Munster Hurling League. They were undefeated in the league, finished top of their table. Now again, I think the two league groups, they were a little bit lopsided. The other side was definitely far stronger. So they beat Dublin, Wexford, Carlow and Laois. They drew with Kilkenny. I think we were both down at that game in Nolan Park. I know I was anyway. And David McInerney impressed at midfield. He's gone up there alongside Tony Kelly. Lohan is obviously rejigging things. Colin Galvin was injured at that point. So to some degree, he's already tried to see if he can find solutions to some of his problems. There's probably just too many fires to put out in this team, isn't there? Like, they had a great defence in the league, by the way, and again, it wasn't always against the strongest teams, but they conceded just over 15 points per game. That's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah, it's not, in fairness, and that was in winter hurling conditions, similar to what they're going to encounter over the next couple of months. So that is a positive. As you say, I think it does have to be said about the league grouping that they were in. I was down at the Clare game against Dublin. Dublin were absolutely rudderless down in Cusack Park that day. To beat Wexford obviously is a good result at any stage of the year. Carlow and Laois probably never going to be at their best during the league, and they drew with Kilkenny obviously as well. But just very hard to get away from what they're missing, really. John Conlon maybe I've ruled out John Conlon, and maybe I'd be silly to do that, but he got his cruciate surgery. I was chatting to the surgeon Ray Moore in Santry in probably April or that, and Conlon was one of the last ones to get surgery just before COVID. He got it just in time, so he'd have to have made a miraculous recovery. It'd have to be 6.5 months, 7 months for him to be back. Given his frame as well and how bulky he is, I think it would probably take him a bit longer to be back. He's obviously captain as well, so I'm sure he's going to want to do everything he can to get back.
Well, the likes of Bernard Brogan got back in, I think it wasn't too much more than 5 months a couple of years ago. So it is doable. It's a huge amount to expect from a player, especially, his access to the physios and all that sort of stuff. Would that have been stunted somewhat by COVID and people keeping apart for a long time before they were going meeting physios? So yeah, it's a tall order. Like, Aaron Shanahan needs to, they need him to be fit constantly. They need him to deliver on the promise that he obviously has. They need David Reedy to come back, knock over every free if he's on them, knit the play together. They need Colin Malone to take another step up. Maybe Shane Golden to deliver on the league form that we've seen a couple of times. Jamie Shanahan to come back in and reproduce his form that he showed at 6 Mile Bridge this year. But there's so many they needs for us to actually say we think they will.
As well as that, Shane, as well, the lads that maybe would normally be coming in to finish off games, the majority of them are going to have to start now. Their bench is going to be severely weakened. If you're taking 3 or 4 starters out of your team, then you're bringing in 3 subs who normally would have been trying to finish off games for them. So, the likes of Dermot Ryan, who were impressed at various stages in the last couple of years, probably will be parachuted in wing forward. Interesting to see what they do with David Fitzgerald, who's playing centre forward during the league and did well, but has I don't think he was playing there for his club, so he would have been away from that kind of position for a good 6 or 7 months. Will they try and put him back in centre forward again? League hurling is an awful lot different than Championship too, so there's just way more questions than answers with them. There really is. They'll be hoping for a good showing against Limerick. The only thing I will say about this is they obviously beat them in the 2018 that last group game in Cusack Park, and were absolutely brilliant that day. they obviously,
by 11
maintained.
points.
Yeah, they maintained that form and were going very, very well in 2018 for the rest of the year. They always seem to deliver their best against them. In fairness, they always seem
Except
to rise.
last year when they got absolutely hammered.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. The year before, they definitely delivered a big performance. Probably the few expected out of them. Limerick will be very wary of them, though, I'd say, and will be kind of ready for that. An interesting little aside as well. So Aaron Cunningham, he'll have another 6 or 7 months of hurling under his belt, having only came back and rejoined the squad around the turn of the year. He'll be coming up against his father, Alan, who's a coach with Limerick. It's happened a bit before with them. I think it happened a couple of years ago as well, but just an interesting kind of dynamic between the two of them. The breakfast table and the dinner table conversation, I'd say it would be fairly interesting there. And I remember saying to him, I interviewed him earlier on the year, and I said, the fact that your father is involved with Limerick and you were away, did that make you even want to cheer for Limerick in any way? And he just said, no, if anything, it made me want to wish more against him than if he wasn't involved. You know what I mean? Because it kind of was probably ramming it down his throat, particularly when he was away. But just another interesting kind of little dynamic to that game. But geez, it's very, very hard to see Clare turn it around just with the weight of those players, and what they add to it. Very, very hard to see them going well. But saying that, maybe there's less expectation, and maybe Brian Lohan has a bit of a fool's pardon this year, just in the way that the year has turned out, and in the players that he's going to be missing as well. And maybe they'll see it as a shot to not and maybe deliver something. But I find it hard to see it.
And you could also say that Brian Lohan is the most inexperienced manager of the lot here. He's not the youngest manager in there, but John Kiley, he's won an All-Ireland in Munster. Liam Sheedy's done the same. Kieran Kingston, he's been involved with Cork before, got them all the way to an All-Ireland semi-final. Liam Cahill, he's won an All-Ireland minor, under 20 and under 21 with Tipperary. So in a real sense, you could say that Clare have the most inexperienced manager, plus they're missing all those players. I'd actually probably put them out of the 10 Liam McCarthy teams. I think that you'd probably only put them ahead of Laois at the moment. And I know they battered Dublin in the league earlier in the year, but still in all, given all those absences, I think you'd have to put Clare number 9. Where would you put them?
Yeah, they'd definitely be down somewhere near the end. Yeah, I'd probably still have them ahead of Dublin. I'd probably have them ahead of Dublin and Laois, and probably based on what we've seen over the last couple of years, probably on par with a Waterford. I'd say they obviously only beat Waterford a point or two last year in the championship. I'd probably have them on par with them, probably either 7th or 8th. Probably just ahead of Waterford, given them what they've probably done a bit more than them in recent years. Probably 7th.